An infinite series is an expression of the type summation an as n runs from 1 to infinity. One natural question that arises is that why do you want to study such infinite sums? Let me motivate using a real world example of scientific calculators. On your left, you see a simulation of the first ever scientific calculator, the Hewlett Packard 32 RPN. RPN stands for reverse Polish notation. It's not relevant what exactly that means. Now, if you notice, this calculator is way more simple than what you are used to, probably a Casio FX 991 or maybe a graphing version of the same. Now let's perform some experiments. So this is a reverse Polish notation, so I'll have to type 85 and let's say I press sign. I get 0.99619. Now let's say I put 74 and I put sign. I get 0.96126. Let me put pi and put sign. I get 0.5480366652. Let me put 4, 8 and sign. I get 0.7431448255. Now, how is the calculator computing or presenting the results of the various values of sign? You might think, well, it just has something like a Clark's tables built into it, a database of various values and the corresponding signs. Well, there is only one issue with this explanation. This calculator launched in 1972. And believe it or not, this calculator probably had just a few kilobytes of memory. Now I leave it to you to check that in fact if it had actually stored the values of sign up till 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 digits. It's simply not possible to store all the values of sign up till 10 digit precision in just a few kilobytes of total available storage. It's simply not possible. So how is it able to actually compute this? Well, it uses what is known as a Taylor series approximation for functions. We will see more about Taylor series approximation towards the end of this course, but I'm sure you're familiar with what the Taylor series is. So the values of sign can be computed by summing up a series. In reality, because this series converges, convergence is the central topic of this week's lectures. Because the series converges, you actually need to compute the sums only up till 10 or 15 digits. 10 or 15 terms to get the level of precision that is there in this calculator. So there is a real world application of infinite series, that is to compute the values of familiar functions like sine, cos, tan, log, exponential, etc. And that is done using Taylor series. So that's one real world application. Now, but as I had mentioned, this real world application just uses a finite approximation. It doesn't sum up an infinite series, but it just uses the sum of the first 10 or 15 terms typically to get a good approximation of this. Nevertheless, to study the infinite series is of relevance because how good an approximation it is, whether 10 terms are enough or 15 terms are enough or 20 terms are enough, can only be determined by studying what is known as the rate of convergence. So even though we are just using finitely many terms, we need to study infinite series. There is no choice. Okay. Now you might still be a bit skeptical as to why we need infinite series. Do we really need to worry about summing up an infinite number of terms? Where does that arise in a real world concrete situation? It might look like infinite series really don't arise at all in any real world concrete situation. That is not true. I'm going to present an example given by the Hungarian mathematician Laszlo Lamar. He presents a very interesting scenario in which you need to sum up an infinite series to get the actual value. Let's see how this scenario goes. A chocolate company starts a promotional offer. The promotional offer is as follows. You buy a chocolate and save the wrapper. Buy chocolate, save the wrapper. Now if you go to the shop and give 10 wrappers, they will give you one chocolate bar extra. Okay, so the promotional offer is to encourage you to eat more chocolate. I think the chocolate company probably tied up with a toothpaste company or something to run this promotional offer. Regardless of their motivation, this is the scenario. If you buy 10 chocolates, save the wrappers and give the shopkeeper 10 wrappers, the shopkeeper will give you one more chocolate bar. Now, the question is very simple. What is the worth of one chocolate bar purely in terms of chocolate? Now let me clarify what I mean by this question. A chocolate bar comes with a wrapper. Obviously you cannot eat the wrapper, but returning 10 wrappers to the shopkeeper gives you another chocolate bar. That means a single chocolate bar is not worth just one chocolate bar of pure chocolate, but a fraction of another chocolate also, right? So one chocolate bar is actually, in terms of pure chocolate, is the one chocolate bar that you have, the chocolate in it, plus 1/10 of a new chocolate bar, right? But if you think about it for a second, the shopkeeper is not going to remove the chocolate wrapper and give you the chocolate when you give 10 wrappers. He's going to give you the new chocolate bar along with the wrapper, obviously. So that means that one chocolate bar that you have in your hand is worth the one chocolate bar, the chocolate inside, plus 1/10 contribution by the wrapper, plus another 1/100th, right? Because 1/10, if you return 10 chocolate wrappers, you get one chocolate bar along with one wrapper free along with the chocolate. So that means that will contribute 1/100th. Okay, and you can see where this is going. You get an infinite series. In fact, I'm sure you know what the sum of this series is. This is called a geometric series. The sum of this series is 1 by 1 minus 1 by 10, which is actually 1 by 10 minus 1 by 10, which is 10 by 9, which is just 1 by 9. So a single chocolate bar along with the wrapper is worth slightly more than one chocolate bar purely in terms of chocolate. So you, in this promotional offer, to understand the value of a single chocolate bar, you actually needed to compute an infinite sum. But this is still a bit circular argument because I'm already using facts about geometric series that you have already learnt. Why should I trust this argument? This is, after all, summing up infinitely many terms, which the philosopher Zeno says is impossible 2500 years ago. We will come back to Zeno later. So how do you convince yourself that in fact this sum of infinite terms actually makes sense without resorting to a calculation which itself requires the sum to make sense? Let's do and compute this sum purely using logic and no computation involved. Let's say you have 9 wrappers with you. You have 9 wrappers. What you do is you go to the shopkeeper and give him the 9 wrappers. And you tell the shopkeeper, you give me a chocolate bar I'll give you one more wrapper immediately. The shopkeeper hands you a chocolate bar, and then what you do is you just remove the wrapper and give the shopkeeper the 10th wrapper. From the perspective of the shopkeeper, he has lost nothing. 10 chocolate wrappers is equivalent to 1 chocolate bar. So he has received 10 chocolate wrappers in his hand, and what he has lost is 1 chocolate bar with the wrapper. So this is a fair transaction from the perspective of the shopkeeper. There is no cheating going on. So what do we get? We get that 9 wrappers is in fact equal to 1 bar of chocolate without the wrapper, because you return the wrapper to the shopkeeper. So in terms of pure chocolate bar, pure chocolate, not the wrapper, 9 wrappers is 1 bar. So 1 wrapper is 1/9. 1/9 of chocolate bar. And we immediately get that 1 chocolate bar along with the wrapper is actually worth 1/9, which is what we got by summing up the geometric series. So, contrary to Mr. Zeno's objections, we have devised a real world scenario where an infinite sum is in fact taking place. And not only is an infinite sum taking place, we can see the sum of those infinitely many terms using just pure logic. So there is a real world relevance of infinite series, both from the perspective of applications to computing the sums of series, as well as this simple scenario. You can think of many other scenarios where infinite series have to be summed up. Net upshot of all this is sum of infinite series makes sense. And the purpose of this week's lectures is to make sense of them. Before that, we will first take a small detour to sequences, which are simpler than series, but at the same time profoundly important. Almost everything in analysis can be phrased in terms of sequences. In the real world, we notice that many of the laws of sums, addition being commutative, addition being associative, etc., can be checked simply by using balls and arranging the balls in various ways to check that is true. After we establish what the meaning of convergence is, we will see which of these laws still continue to hold true. Infinite sums do not always behave like finite sums. Just because we have devised a scenario where we are able to treat infinite sum, specifically this sum 1 plus 1 by 10 plus 1 by 100, purely using logic, you cannot always easily form real world analogies of these laws. Whereas for commutativity of finite sums, you can easily check it visually, which you may not be able to do for infinite series. So we will have to formulate a precise definition of what infinite sum is, what the sum of a series is, what convergence of a series is, and we have to analyze various things. It will turn out as expected that not all infinite series will have a sum. Many of them will not. This is a course on real analysis, and you have just watched the lecture on motivation for infinite sums